Okay, so now that we looked at the metering and referencing, let's take a look at Master Assistant. We'll get this one out of the way ahead of time so we can kind of see how it works, and then maybe we could see a little bit about how Ozone uses these modules in comparison to how we will use these modules. So let's hit Master Assistant right here. So we have three different targets: streaming, CD, and reference. Streaming is going to be the lowest volume of the three. Mostly because the if you're mastering something targeted for streaming, you're going to be targeting negative 14 LUFS, which is a loudness unit measurement. And those are it's a little bit different than peak and RMS levels, but it's going to be really really quiet. So I mean, in comparison to something that you would buy off of iTunes or something, if you're mastering something for a streaming service, I mean, they're going to lower the volume of your song anyway, if even if it's like slammed, like -1 RMS, um like -6 LUFS. You're getting really loud, like some of these like Skrillex tunes, or Lax has really really loud tracks. He's gonna like they're gonna lower those volumes on Spotify, and it's gonna sound a little bit, well, it's already less dynamic, but it's not going to sound as loud as you'd think. So this would be the target setting for streaming. Right here is a little bit louder. We can set the intensity of the master here: low, medium, and high. And right here we have reference, which is a really really cool function. We can select from any one of our reference tracks that we've been listening to earlier, that we loaded in a little bit earlier, and we can select that setting, and it will master it based on uh, what it identifies from this master. So why don't we try this one first? I'm gonna hit next and hit play. See it working right here. Okay. So let's take a look at what it did. Looks like it made some EQ curves. Remember, the dark gray line is our reference. We didn't have any dynamics because this song isn't very dynamic in this specific part. Got a dynamic EQ. If you want to learn more, we're going to talk a little bit more about dynamic EQ, but you can also reference the Neutron 2 dynamic EQ settings. I talked about it in the Neutron course. Really, really, really powerful stuff. And then we have our maximizer. So let's flip back and forth. We're gonna flip back and forth between our reference and this track. See how close we got. I think we can go a little bit harder on this. Okay. So it got pretty close. I mean, we gave it a little bit more on the maximizer, but I mean, the master assistant's a great tool. I'm really impressed with how Ozone handled this. I mean, if you tried to put in something that was slammed, like for instance, I know a lot of you guys out there like to use the Humble remix that Skrillex did for that Kendrick Lamar track. That will just destroy this maximizer. Like it'll be brought down to like -20, just like this, like all gain reduction right here, and it'll just sound destroyed. So you want to like you want to kind of take it with a grain of salt. Like this is not going to be this is not going to master your song for you. You need to make like some decisions, and if you're trying to get a really loud and powerful sound, I'd recommend try stage limiting or the use of multiple limiters to slowly build that level up rather than just cranking the threshold down on something. Uh, it's way more effective. So the other setting, let's try the CD master assistant this time. We'll set the intensity to medium actually. Okay, cool. Now let's listen to in comparison with our reference. You can hear it's a lot louder too. Take a look at the RMS readings right here. Look at those RMS readings. Like we're getting like probably about like 5 or 6 dB more in the RMS, which is going to be the overall average loudness of our track. So this is a perfect example too. Like this track right here was probably mastered with streaming in mind. It's a more recent song, but uh, so with when we're targeting a CD or like a personal download, especially if you're making a dubstep tune or like a huge trap tune, or anything that would be played at a festival by a DJ, you would want that thing to be as loud as it possibly can because you want it to stack up against all the rest of the tracks in their set, right? If they jump to your track and it suddenly becomes like 5 dB quieter or the perceived loudness drops significantly, it's not going to really work for them, and they probably won't play it again. So so you want to keep that in mind, especially with the type of music you're making, the type of what you want the track to be used for, essentially. So I mean, if you're making pop music, so like this is essentially just pop music, right? We don't need it to be crazy loud, so we can probably roll back that threshold a little bit. So we're getting just a little bit of gain reduction. And that's a good level for that. So that's Master Assistant, but now we're gonna get into manually mastering our tunes.